got a bit of a new hobby. It's called collecting wilds. So I have to talk a bit quietly because I've currently got this mic boosted by 20 dB. Let me just switch it back to what you're used to. So when I started, I think I've got the gain duct within the camera. So when I started this vlog, the one thing I knew I was going to be crap at was the photography. This has been a massive learning curve, still very much learning. I observed other vlogs and I always felt that the sound quality really suffered. I thought, well, this vlog is going to be about music and sound and sonics, then at least I should get the sound right. So I tried out several microphones. The microphone by Shure that was absolutely terrible, a couple of the cheaper Rode and more popular Rode camera mics, and they were all appalling, which kind of lent credence to why, say for example, Casey Neistat's videos sound great, because his use of music is great and it's mixed really high, but actually when he's around and about it's all pretty much in mono. So I hit upon this mic, the Video Mic X. It is cumbersome. It looks a bit foolish with the fluffy foof. It falls off the hot shoe all the time, so very expensive as well. But the most annoying thing about this mic is when I'm at distance from the camera, I need to project, and my voice is very unattractive, really annoying, in fact, when I project it out. It's all kind of it sounds great at the moment in my own head, but whenever I get this footage back, I'm like, oh my God, my voice is so annoying. What I did was I purchased this Sanken lav mic just to test it out, and you may have noticed on a few vlogs I was just kind of hardwired into the camera, which is actually why I've got the gain duct within the camera, and which is why you got a few too many crotch shots for my liking, especially that one that was in Dr. Neil's garden. So basically, lav mic, the little foof. It's incredible, this Sanken mic. The capsule is absolutely tiny. So I got one of those, and I think it's kind of quite an industry standard system. It's a Sennheiser EW100. So that's the receiver and that's the transmitter. So that goes in there. Battery life seems to last forever. And what's cool about this is when it's on top of because it's got a little hot shoe connector, when it's on top of the camera looks way cool. I've noticed people going, oh, really cool camera with this on. With the little fluffy bungle thing on, I don't get as many compliments. Okay, so let's switch these out. Test 1, 2, 1, 2. So the great thing now is I can talk much more kind of intimately, as if we're cuddling up in bed together, whether I'm standing here or indeed sitting here. The reason I don't have Oscar with me today, by the way, is this may look pretty, but it's actually an algae that is forming across lakes and rivers in the UK, and it's killing a lot of dogs. Really, really poisonous. Little side note there. So this is how you've been listening to my vlogs recently, and I'm learning that I shouldn't get too far away from the receiver because it's a very, very short range. But with the addition of the wilds, hopefully it'll become a little bit more immersive, a bit more stereo. Okay, so why am I enjoying doing these wild tracks? I think one of the most eye-opening days I've ever spent in my career was I played music editor for a day on the film Atonement. Basically, there wasn't a music editor in London that was available, so I helped with a preview dub, and being in those shoes for a day taught me so much about the challenges of music editing and sound and a dub. It really gave me an insight that I didn't have as a composer. Now, working on these vlogs, doing all of this kind of content for Spitfire has really taught me about how sound is very much a second class citizen within the world of film. I think a good way of kind of describing, I think, the difficulties that we face and why this has been a great experiment for me anyway, has been if we want to imply that I'm sitting next to a stream, I could take this audio kind of information, which was taken about, I don't know, 300 yards away from quite a busy kind of rushing stream, or we could take the audio image of it kind of about 100 yards away. But this is when it just becomes a kind of shash, which is, I believe, a old post office term for a kind of continuous tone. And suddenly you're not hearing all of these different sounds. So if we take this audio image, which is of just a little kind of babbling, it's actually a drain off Arthur's Seat, so that water's just what's draining off this volcano. Instead of having just a shash as a backing, you've got a discernible stream, you've got my voice, and then the ambient kind of traffic noise that's coming off this mic. It's the first time my attention was brought to a dirty audio track, and the concept of the difficulties that sound guys face is when I did a piece to camera next to a busy road. And suddenly all of this kind of continuous shash was going into my lav mic, and these sound guys were going, we're not going to be able to separate your voice from the traffic, it's going to be less audible. Which is why I came here earlier to record some early morning traffic, which has a greater degree of kind of ebb and flow, the occasional car going by. It's amazing actually how just a few yards makes a huge difference. Suddenly we have separation. We can control the level of my voice versus the traffic. So then we can use that separated imagery of the early morning traffic to bring us into the scene. It gives you a sense that I'm standing next to a road, but I'm able to speak very quietly and you can still hear me as the traffic ebbs away naturally, and then use that recording, another car passing, to bring us back out of the scene. You guys have never left being with me at a roadside, but you've also been able to hear what I'm talking about. And this is, I think, key, and why I want to evangelize this kind of act of going out and grabbing some wilds, because I think when you place it against the imagery that you'll get, which often won't contain all of these ambient tracks that they will put on in the dub, you will see and start feeling the battle that everyone has when it comes to the dubbing stage. And this is why I think we should try and put these ambiences in to the soundtracks that we're provided with, usually a mono signal with dialogue only, spot effects, that kind of stuff. Add these in to see the impact they have on the top end of your mix, on certain frequency levels, the dynamics, but also our favourite subject, reverb. I have a terrible impatience problem. I've in fact Googled once, has anyone ever died of impatience, because I feared that I may be the first candidate. And what's been great about doing these wilds is it's just made me stop and listen. And the first time I stopped to record a wild, I was like, oh my God, this is just going to be interminable. Standing still for 10 minutes and not moving around. And then you just start listening and you realise how symphonic the ambient world around us is, how it isn't a continuous shash like the one in the background, how it ebbs and flows. That little bird up there, I think it's a crow or something, that just went by, and the traffic behind will ebb and come in waves, and you start listening to it, and it reminded me of the first time my music teacher played me, is it 4 minutes 30 by John Cage? It has taught me to experience the world entirely differently. Say for example, if you look at this footage, it's a really boring part of Arthur's Seat, and in fact the tree is not particularly attractive. But I was struck by walking around and actually listening out for interesting areas to gather these ambiences, at how sonically rich that environment was and how much more I enjoyed it as a consequence. Whereas somewhere like this, whilst being utterly beautiful, like something out of a Led Zeppelin inner sleeve, sounds a bit boring really. So it's kind of staggering how you can come somewhere so beautiful and it's just really nothing. And I feel very blessed that I'm not only in an area that is, you know, incredibly picturesque. I mean, look at that. But is also sonically rich with ebb, flow, not just a continuous shash. Yeah, it's good to listen. As always, if you like what I do, hit like. If you haven't subscribed yet, next one's not going to be as boring, but probably in the kind of a future episode, I'll look at how I'm going to use wilds within the compositional realm to really work out how I can achieve a good balance and, the ebb and flow in my music, so I'm not providing the dub with continuous kind of sausage meat shashes that are impossible for them to deal with. As always, please do look after yourselves, and if you want to be notified the next time I make one of these incredibly boring videos, hit the little bell button. See you next time. So that's me pretty much done for the day. One last wild to catch, pub interior.